What's up, you guys? We're back for Do That But Better. I am Zach, and I am here with my younger but not better brother, Eric.
Just different.
But yeah, and as I was saying, you got a haircut. I mean, you look all trimmed up. Was that for Thanksgiving?
No, actually, just today. I was
Oh
way
yeah.
overdue. Everything was very shaggy.
Hmm.
I probably went like 2 weeks longer than I normally do.
How often do you cut your hair?
I feel like it's usually, well, I think I trim my beard every 2 weeks and then cut my hair maybe like every four.
Do you have a schedule? Like,
No.
uh,
But I'm pretty sure that's about the time when I'm like, all right, I really need to cut my hair.
yeah, I'm like every 6 to 8 years, I'll cut my hair.
Which actually, I don't think I've cut this hair for a while now. I'm not sure. Because I
What did
always
you?
just like buzz everything,
Yeah.
and sometimes, and then Lisa will cut this part because it's longer.
Hmm.
Um, but she hasn't done that in like, I don't know, possibly like 2 months.
I was actually just asking Natalie to. I think I might trim my hair a little bit, but I'm sort of nervous
Do
because,
like the Rachel, get some layers.
right? Yeah, I might get a few layers. Yep. Now, should I? I mean, should I go side part or down the middle?
Oh, you mean like really cut it?
No, I'm not.
Oh.
I probably won't. I don't know if I ever want to have short hair again.
Mm.
I feel like that's where my strength is. You know, Ronnie Teasdale said that you get strength when you get your hair to full length. So, me and Shane are going. We're going all in.
Yeah, I feel like, yeah, yeah. I would prefer to just buzz it. It's easier that way.
But then you have to see. I feel like then you have to do it often.
Mm, I don't know. In college, I would just let it grow for like a month or two, and then just
Hmm.
buzz it all, and just keep doing that.
Yeah. Well, so speaking of hair length and strength, right? So, yeah, so we wanted to talk a little bit about strength today. And one of the reasons that this came up was I heard somebody say, well, first one person said that using a barbell just makes me feel strong. And then somebody else said, barbells make me feel weak. And a little bit of me died inside. And so then I started thinking about strength. And we actually, I feel like at the gym, we'll use those words a lot. So I like to, and actually even at home, I'll tell the kids, like, stop being weak. And actually, Natalie really hates that, especially because our kids then use it and very angrily. So I like to think that I use it right, and then they'll be like, "You're being weak," like, and it can really cause some hurt feelings. But I love the feeling of being strong, and I think that there's a lot of mis what is that word? I don't know, misunderstandings around strength. And so, number one, I wanted to go over really what strength is, and looking it up in the dictionary. So I did this. Um, they said the capacity of an object or substance to withstand great pressure or force. All right. So that is strength. But usually in the exercise world, we're thinking about contractile potential, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, and obviously it's the same kind of thing, right? How much could you do?
Yeah. How much can my
And
muscle move?
right now, I think that one of the biggest misconceptions here is that people think that there's like strong or not, right? And so you look at strong men and power lifters and like the strongest people in the world, and then you look at what you do and you go, I'm not.
Right. Or
And
even
it's
the person you're sharing the bar with, or the person in the squat rack next to you. That's what I
mhm,
was thinking of, someone saying that the barbell makes me feel weak,
mhm.
that it's not the barbell, it's probably your comparison of yourself to someone else that makes you feel weak.
Mm.
And
You
that
are so
focusing
good
on
at that.
comparing yourself to your previous self is going to make you feel strong.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah. Well, so actually, let's even just dive into that mental side. When thinking about strength, where do we even start? Where would you start?
Man, it's always the same spot. I sound like a broken record, I know. But it's just like self awareness of where am I right now? Where did I start? Where am I now? Where am I going? Right? And being clear on that and like why. Right? So, and that's thinking about the physical strength side
Hmm.
of
Well,
like,
actually, so I mean, let's actually stay on that because you know, in different areas or in different seasons of my life, I guess, you know, the the reason that I wanted to be strong was different. You know,
mm-hmm,
it's like because for chicks, right? And then and lots of times even like body composition, you just like equated these two. If I just get
yep.
stronger, I'm gonna have a better body. And it's like, well, that's not true. And um, and now I still want to be competitive athletically. I want to be able to do pull-ups. I want to be able to lift heavy things, and I want people to look at it and go, "Oh, wow, that was really good." I can't do that.
Mm-hmm,
Now, on the other hand, the things that I'll do to do that have changed. I used to go, no, I will do anything to get a little bit stronger. And now I don't necessarily see PRs like I did, but my strength is staying pretty darn consistent. There's multiple things that I can almost always do. Bringing up my minimums. What's the least amount that I can do no matter what?
yep.
And so now, yeah, just having a little bit different. Like, what do I need to be able to do in
Mm-hmm.
strength?
I love the minimums.
Mm-hmm.
Just the other day I was squatting and I only had like, I don't know, like 30 minutes. And I'm like, I'm going to squat up to 315 with only 25s, 45s. Because that
Yeah,
was like something I did in the past where I was like, that's just something I want to be able to do. I don't
yeah.
want to have to do a bunch of little baby plates in between. If
Those
you're
weak
using
plates.
anything, yeah, if you're not using 25s and 45s, then you're just screwing around.
Yeah. But yeah, finding out what exactly, and I'll tell you what, strength is super important. So whether you are an athlete, you're young and trying to compete in a sport, but also as an adult, I mean, I would say, like, actually, what percentage of people would you say cannot do a pull-up in the world?
Oh, a very high percentage.
It's really really high. And
Yeah.
now here's the funny thing. I think that lots of times with strength we start thinking about like barbell versus like body weight, and um, you know people are sometimes okay with one over the other, and it's like no, like we need all this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's most people cannot do a pull-up. And now in the CrossFit world, it's very easy to go, why can't I do a pull-up? Because so many people are doing them. But when you start looking at what the percentage of those people are, is like in the world, it's like, no, that's freaky, right?
Yeah.
And it's really cool that we're making that normal, because we need to be able to pull ourselves up. And if I'm able to do that really well, when I'm 90 and I fall over and I have to pull myself up on the counter, I'm going to be a little bit better. I have
Totally.
that residual.
Yeah. And that's really so in the last like 2 years, I've put more emphasis into like actually building more muscle mass.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the reasons was that I was like, I've always putting on muscle was not always super easy for me. Playing soccer, you do a lot of running and you just stay trim,
Hmm.
but not like bulking up. And I was just thinking that, like, as you get older, you lose strength, you start to lose muscle mass. And so putting on muscle mass is it's like a retirement fund. Right? Like once you hit 50, 60 and your muscle mass starts going down, like whatever you started with, that's what you're working with.
Right.
And so I'm like, well, I should probably put on some more beforehand, because I look around and I see a lot of people, men and women, that I feel like the most noticeable spot is like right here, where you see like if there's like zero muscle tone, like neck, traps, shoulders, arms,
Hmm.
I'm like, holy cow, when's the last time you lifted anything that was like remotely heavy,
Yeah.
right? Or like pushed something or pulled, or like you just don't, in modern life, you don't have to use these things until you do.
Yeah.
And like if it surprises me sometimes, like how really atrophied a lot of people are, because you
Yeah.
just don't have to use it.
Yeah, and it's not a bad thing. Like it's not like shame on us. It's like
Hmm.
in our normal life, you might not have to do it, and so
Right.
we have to actively seek out these things because we have just more sedentary life. We're more at desks. We're driving. Especially if you're an adult. If you don't have kids, you know, what kind of things are you really picking up? Except for like the one time every 10 years that you move or you help somebody move. And
Yep. Like
it's,
groceries and laundry baskets. That's pretty much it.
yeah. I actually, I remember somebody I knew, they would bowl once a year because, because that was all that they could handle. They're like, nope, it just takes too much out of me. And man, I was like, once, like, at what age do you start saying that I can't do things? And man, I really hope that most of the things that you want to do, that you're able to do for the rest of your life, and in different capacities, right? So yeah, the way that I might have played a sport when I was younger. Actually, I was just thinking about rugby, and playing rugby, and you're going all in. You're hitting people. You've got these like 22-year-olds, and now that I'm closing in on 40, I remember there was the one guy, Jeff Daniels. This dude was big, and actually he used to Olympic lift, and like he just big, strong guy. But he was in his 40s, and I'm like, now when I look back, like I didn't think it was anything weird. I'm like, of course, yeah, he's in his 40s, and of course he's still playing. He's not a sissy. And I'm like, oh crap, like, dude, taking like on-field hits, like, oh my crap, I can't even imagine it right now. But he also had a great base of muscle mass that was able to protect him, so he's able to do things. He did it in a different capacity. You watch, he was so methodical when he was on the field. So the rucks that he went in, the tackles that he made, all that stuff. It wasn't just like balls to the wall and like, like I was, and so he was a better player for it. But he had that mass, and so he was able to do the things that he still loved. And I think that is one of the most important aspects of strength that we can have, especially as we get older, so that you don't get hurt.
Yep. Yeah. I don't know, a couple months ago, I went and subbed for a soccer team. They had 2 playoff games in a row. So played 2 soccer games back to back after not playing for like 3 years. But the second game especially was against, I mean, it looked like a team all like straight out of college. And so I'm like, all right, I mean, I think I'm a decade older than everyone here, and a decade younger than everyone else on our team. But like, I mean, it's noticeable that, I mean, I had the conditioning, and when you end up like body to body with someone, you can tell that like this person does not lift weights, because I can just shove them around. Like I can just push people around easily just from the stability in your legs and your hips from squatting and deadlifting and like building that strength, it's totally noticeable.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, so just mentioning those lifts, I think it's so important to be doing those main lifts. So squatting, deadlifting, bench pressing, pressing overhead, these large movers. So moving large loads, long distances, right? And you're going to get the most bang for your buck, but it's also the most applicable. You're going just to life and sport. You're going to take your body through full ranges of motion, and also find stability in them. So just like you were saying, if you don't lift weights, and this doesn't mean that you have to be huge, right? And it's just you're able to control your body so much better, and you're able to stabilize it. You know, if you think about somebody who, if you think about a yoga instructor, so they have mobility, they can move, but now try and stabilize, and not nearly as easy. And so obviously mobility, flexibility is going to be very important, but strength is right up there. Mm-hmm. And so what you want to have is enough mobility to move through full range of motion, but enough strength to stabilize through that whole thing. Actually, we were just doing squats today, and we're just body weight squats, and one person was just like almost bouncing off the ball, like the last 3 inches, and so we had to slow him down and now stabilize through that. And here's the thing, you might be able to squat like a full depth squat, but you're bouncing right through those last 3 inches, and you're going to be more likely to get hurt, right? Yep. So at some point, that might be great for moving really fast where you don't have control, but it's not good for longevity. And it would be good to be able to do both.
Yeah. And on that stability, I know I've talked about this before, but at one point at the one CrossFit gym, we put together an indoor soccer team. Mm-hmm. And there were 2 of us who had played soccer before. No one else had any experience whatsoever. So we were not great skill-wise, but I had to apologize constantly to every team and every ref and just be like, they don't know what they're doing. Because our team, it's a bunch of regular people. You don't look at them and you're like, oh, this person's like going to the games. It's just regular people, but they show up and they lift, and it was just a massacre every time. The team just spent the whole time on the ground. Our team, it was just, if there was ever a challenge, if people ran into each other, our team was always standing up, the other team was always on the ground.
Yeah.
And again, it's just soccer moms, random people that happen to go to CrossFit gym and happen to lift weights, won the challenge every time.
Yeah.
Almost to a fault. It was not great.
Yeah.
Running people up.
Like you said, you've got just normal people doing abnormal things, but when you're in a CrossFit gym, you start to see those things and not really realize that they are abnormal, and so it actually is sometimes depressing, right? So if let's say push pressing 185, all right? A 185 push press in a CrossFit gym can look pretty normal, right? And people are going to do more than that. But if you just give most people a barbell and tell them to try and get it over their head, it's probably not going to happen, right?
Yeah, if you just went out on the street, you're like, hey, I'll give you $20 if you can do this.
Right. And I'll tell you what, and I think that it's especially discouraging often for guys in a CrossFit gym, especially if you haven't been doing CrossFit very long, because girls will smash them in some of these things, especially if they haven't done them before. If they weren't doing specific strength training. So if you were just a runner, if you were just what name your thing that isn't necessarily a strength sport, and you take somebody who has been doing CrossFit or other strength sports for a while, And just out of training age, it's like, guess what? They're better, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's very cool because you get to see what people can do if you practice, right? So just like, oh, girls can't do push-ups, and it's like, wait a minute, girls who can't do push-ups can't do push-ups, and guess what? Guys who can't do push-ups can't do push-ups.
Yep.
And so, finding what is acceptable for you, right? And that is 100% individual, as opposed to this is something that, hey, you need to be able to do this amount of weight on this thing. It's like, dude, lift heavy for you. And if you're lifting heavy, whether it's like, deadlift, squat, clean, press, then number one, you're going to be keeping that muscle. You're going to be building muscle. And you can always go up. Unless you have a specific competition goal or something like that, then none of it matters. It's like, put in the work and keep doing it, because there's a lot of people that are not.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just saw someone post, well, he basically said all of the like fitness influencers and whatnot you see on Instagram are not, they aren't living this perfect life that everyone's imagining of like, I work out every day and I only eat very strict whatever. Mm-hmm. They're really just doing what should be normal. They're eating mostly vegetables. They're probably not eating perfectly. They probably drink a bunch of coffee, probably drink beer with their friends, and they work out 3 to 5 times a week. But because it's not the norm right now, they look like they're whatever gods, fitness gods. It's like that. It should not be as uncommon as it is. Think about, you can go around the world, and like see all of the stones, the like historic stones, lifting stones. People were lifting those 100 years ago, 200 years ago.
Yeah, no training.
And they're huge, right? And like, I mean, those guys weren't going to Gold's Gym.
Right.
What were they doing?
Picking stuff up.
They were working in a quarry, moving rocks. They were farming. Like, so really the abnormal thing is not doing all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. Right? So we have to like make it normal again.
Right.
Like, being strong should be normal. That is historically the norm.
Yeah. Do you think that there's a prerequisite to strength? Like, everybody should be able to do this?
I mean, I wouldn't mandate it. I know, it's like Joe DeSena has said that. He's like, shouldn't the government just, whatever, 6 a.m., everyone's TV turns on, and it's the instructor. I'm like, this is in 1984, right?
Yeah. But wouldn't it be great?
But I think there are definitely numbers that you could put to it and say, like, that's like the presidential fitness test. Right. Basically, it's like, here's the goal that pretty much every human being should be able to do.
What are some things that if you were going to set some strength standards for people, what would you, and let's just say your average 30 to 60-year-old. What are some movements and standards for everybody? You give me a couple, I'll give you a couple.
Okay. I mean, you could do it with a barbell. I'm thinking, like, how do you make this very accessible? Mm-hmm. I'm picturing maybe like a sandbag that is 50% of your body weight carried for X amount of time or distance. Like, you should be able to carry that a certain amount of distance. And then probably squat it for a certain number of reps. I think that would be a very solid test that if people are training for that test, they're going to be strong, like very broadly strong.
Yeah.
That would be one.
I like that. Yeah.
I think push-ups would have to be on there. That's a simple and very doable test, and good at developing. If you're doing push-ups well, they are a very good strength developer.
Yeah, and I also think that just the ability to be able to push yourself up off the ground, and then the core strength. Like, so it, doing a plank is not, it's not a ton, right? I mean, especially when you think of, hey, I'm going to put a kid on my back, right? Like, how much more strength does that take than doing a plank with no weight? And it's like, if I can do that, if I can do 1, maybe 5, maybe 10, maybe we'll say 5 to 10. I would like to see that for push-ups. I think that's a really good standard, and I think that it's something that you can get to pretty quickly. Actually, we've been doing a challenge all month, and so 30 push-ups a day. You could do them however. They could be on your knees. They could be on your they could be in a plank. You could be elevated. Whatever you want to do, and you could do just one, every 30 minutes if you wanted to. But number one, you end up getting 900 reps over the month, and you really just get a lot of practice at it. That's 900 more practice reps. And I would bet that if you're doing them pretty often, you are going to, if you went from 0, so depending on how far you were, I would bet that you could get up to about 5 or so. Now, there is one thing. I was actually talking to somebody the other day. They said that this guy was doing, I forgot how many he was doing a day. And he started out, he was able to do 30 in a row. And he did the same number for the whole month or something like that. And it might have been like 100 or something like that, right? And he ended up only being able to do 32 by the end. And I thought this was very interesting because this is a big thing in CrossFit, is variance. Mm-hmm. If you do the same thing over and over, you are going to get the same result. There might be, especially as a beginner, you might get a little bit of increase, but you need to change that up. And so if that person, instead of doing like sets of 10 for all of them or something like that, and actually I did this over the course of this month, was, sometimes I would do like 20 and 10. Sometimes I would do 30. Sometimes I would do, 10, 10, 10. And, try and do them faster. Or I would move in and out as I was moving. Mm-hmm. And, just doing little things like that can really build your strength when you are doing the same thing over and over. And so, I thought that was pretty interesting.
Or adding tempo. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, yeah.
That's brutal. I do like the 20-second push-up. It's like 5 seconds up, 5 second hold, 5 seconds down, 5 second hold. See how many you can do. That's bad.
That's pretty brutal. Yeah.
Another one is flip your toes over for push-ups.
Like push-ups, like feet down?
Yeah, so like instead of standing on your toes, flip them over so your toes are pointed, so you're on the top of your foot.
Yeah.
Oh boy. It makes a weirdly large difference.
Yeah.
So try that push-ups.
Back to like even in the definitions of strength. So, we talked a little bit about numbers are not necessarily relevant for strength. Like, it's not like you have to have this amount. It more comes down to what do you need to be able to do in your life? What do you want to be able to do? And can you do that? And so now it's like, that's the amount of strength that I need, right? Mm-hmm. But there's also the idea of productive application of force, right? So when you're talking about, hey, I can squat X amount, right? But now let's turn that into, I have a kid and I have to get down, grab them, and all of a sudden I can't pick them up, but I can squat more than that. And it's like, oh wait, like, why is this not transferring over? Yeah. And so it's like when we talked about the contractile potential, you have the potential, hey, I can squat 315, but all of a sudden I can't pick up this thing out of a squat. And actually, we had this with a sandbag, right? So I have the pink sandbag, and it's a 200-pound sandbag, but I recently switched out the sand and put in stones, and I feel like it's heavier. So it's somewhere in the 200-something range, right? And sometimes I would give people challenges to pick things up, right? And there was one person who there was multiple people, and they all had different deadlifts, right? One person had a really high deadlift and couldn't pick up the bag, right? The next person had a lower deadlift than that person, but picked it up like it was nothing, right? And it was probably the bag is probably 50% of the stronger deadlift, right? But it's probably like 75% of the other person's, and they were able to throw it up on their shoulder. And it's like, wait a minute, what just happened? Who's stronger? And now it's like, well, who can do more things, right? And now there is with like picking something up, right? Now, second of all, you can go to something like a muscle up, where you're going from the bar of the rings, you're going to pull, and then all the way up on top of it. Now, you might have the ability, and actually we have multiple people who have the ability to do multiple strict pull-ups, maybe even chest-to-bar pull-ups, and they can do dips, but somehow they can't go into that full muscle-up. Now, we also have people who can maybe only do 1 or 2 pull-ups, but with productive application of force, they're able to get a muscle up and maybe even do multiple, right? And so lots of times it doesn't even matter how strong you are in a certain thing if it doesn't apply to something else. And this is huge when you're using machines and you're like, hey, I can bench press X amount on this chest press machine. And it's like, all right, well, now try it with free weights. Now try it with dumbbells, right? That's going to be different too.
Yeah, and or kettlebells.
Yeah. And so again, it's like, what kind of a strength do you need, and what do I need to apply it to?
Yeah. Yeah, and that, I mean, I know everyone likes machines. They're safer, right? But for general population, I feel like dumbbells is where it's at. Where like you can hold enough weight, if you're doing legs and things, and for shoulders especially, like rowing, pressing, you're building so much more stability, which increases that applicability. Right. So like doing single leg things, single arm things, so lunges, step ups, single arm presses, or alternating arms, like that's really, I feel like, is things that look more like strongman. Are going to build more of that broad strength, more applicable strength, I think.
Yeah, farm boy strength. And actually, that's sort of the stuff that I love, just for that reason. Like, actually, I think there's possibly a couple reasons. Number one, a lot of people can't do it if they haven't done it. And so you get to go, oh yeah, you can't do this? But it's also like one of those things that it's not that there's no technique, but it's like, get this from here to there, or pick this up. And people, how do you hold it? It's like, how do you hold a sandbag? Any way you can. Squeeze it, right? And I think that you get out of that minutia of like, how exactly do I, like, show me the trick. And I like that muscle ups, right? Yeah, you have to be strong to do a muscle up. I don't care if you're kipping, I don't care what the heck it is. If you're doing it, good for you, because it's really freaking hard. But lots of times people go, well, just show me how to do it. I just don't have that thing. It's like, no, you're not strong enough yet. right? And it might not be that you don't have a good deadlift. It's like, hey, your strength to weight ratio or your application of it is not there right now, and it's going to take a long time. There's a saying, it's like Stalta, and strength takes a lifetime to acquire. It's not like something that you just hit. Hey,
Yeah.
I'm strong now. It's like you need to keep working at it. They say that a pressure that is like more consistently applied, is the adaptation is more permanent, right? So you need to continuously put yourself under some kind of stress, whether it's lifting or pulling or whatever the heck it is, and do it really often to keep building that. And it's like, no, there's not like weeks off and whatever. Like, obviously, yes, you can go take a vacation or whatever, but it's got to be part of your life, or else strength will go. And you were even talking about like 50, 60, you start losing muscle mass, but I've even heard more like 40. Like, so around 40, you can start losing testosterone, you start losing muscle mass, which can, and now if you're not doing anything, bone density. It's like this is a big problem, and you're losing independence. You're not just losing body composition or something like that. You are literally losing independence. You can't get off the ground anymore. You can't stand up and sit down off the toilet. You can't pull yourself up if you fall, and you are losing your body armor. Your muscle is body armor so that your bones don't break when you do have that accident or something hits you or whatever it is. Actually, there was this guy, Sinbad. He was the best. He was at the rec center here in Chicago Heights, and when we would go work out, and he was like 75, he had to be like 80 years old. And number one, he was a magician. And so number one, his name was Sinbad. Number two, he was a magician, and he was old. And so he would come in, and sometimes he would have a cane, and he would tap dance, and then sometimes he would be shadow boxing. And then sometimes he would be on the floor. He'd lay down, like lean up, like almost like cobra pose, and fall and go, bah, bah, and just smash on the ground. And it was hilarious, but it was probably so good for him. Just having some impact on yourself, whether it's with weights or anything, is really freaking good for you. And obviously you have to do that with some concern. Don't be stupid. But the fact that he was able to do that, guess what? When he tripped and fell, no big deal. I've done it before.
Yeah.
So 100%. Yeah, he was so cool.
But yeah, I think as you age, right, like the reason, the main focus changes. The main focus of strength changes. Like you said, like 20s and 30s, you're competing, you're trying to look good. And then as you get into that like middle age, it makes life easier. Right? The things that you want to do, like if you want to go hiking, if you want to play tennis, whatever, like being stronger makes that easier. So you aren't as winded. So that carrying a laundry basket up the stairs isn't exhausting. Right? So that picking up your kids or grandkids isn't, a 1 rep max.
Yeah.
Right? And then long term, like, do you want to be in the chairlift going up the stairs because your 1 rep max step up is your entire body, is your body weight, right? Like,
yeah,
because that's what it is. If your body weight squat is your max, then that means you've got one chance to get off the toilet.
Yep.
And after that, you're exhausted.
Yeah, and actually, that's even with heart health. Right, so a lot of times you'll have people who are very overweight or just even overweight and deconditioned, and their heart is racing every time that they stand up. Well, that might not be a heart problem; that's a strength problem, because if you could squat with body weight on your back, guess what? When you stand up, your heart's not racing, but your heart is going to be racing when you put that bar on your back for a 5 rep max. Right? A 10 rep max, a 1 rep max. And I'll tell you what, I think that the mental aspect of that, when you put yourself under pressure consistently, right? You're not only building strength physically, but you're building it mentally. And when you hit that fourth rep of that five rep max, and you're like, I got to take one more, and you got to take a few breaths because your heart is racing. You can't hardly breathe, and you go into it, and you get on that struggle train, right? You just taught yourself that I can push through hard stuff, right? And that's one of the that's like a mantra here is do hard things, and we do hard things, and when you are building strength, you're building it physically, but you're also building it mentally. And now you take that out into the world and you're like, oh crap, I've got a really busy day. This is going to hurt. And you're like, but not as bad as that 5 rep max back squat. And, and actually really that's a Joe DeSena thing. I mean, he talks about just changing your perspective all the time. And if you guys don't know Joe DeSena, he's the maker of Spartan Race. But yeah, if you keep changing your perspective on what hard is, on what strong is, it's always a moving target. And so you're never going to get there because once you hit something and this is the best you've ever done, it doesn't feel that great anymore. It looked really good when it was over there. And it looked like, oh man, if I get that, that's going to be it. But it's like, no, every time you hit it, you're happy for a little bit. And then you go, I could have done more. It's like, oh yeah, if you could, then why don't you, right? It's like, no, that's our next step.
Yep. And like on that same vein, like if you are exposing yourself to challenges all the time, then the little things are nothing. I was just this morning working out, I was listening to Joe Rogan talking with Jocko Willink. And he said, the hardest thing you ever experienced in your life is the hardest thing you've ever experienced in your life. And if that thing is whatever, your candidate losing an election and you're crying in the street, then that's the worst thing you've ever experienced. Like, you're not going to tolerate it very well. But if you've experienced war, if you've gone and smashed yourself in the gym, if you take cold showers, if you fast once a month, now all these other things, like you're exposing yourself to more difficult things, you are stronger.
Yes.
Because all the little things seem that much smaller.
I love that.
So be strong mentally.
Yeah, it's the practical application of force, even like force mentally. I love that. Be strong physically and mentally, not only for aesthetics, but it just makes you better at life.
Yep. Makes life easier.
There we go. I think we did it.
Cool.
Be strong, suckers. All right, you guys. We'll see you guys next week for Do That But Better, Tuesdays at 12 o'clock. If you guys have anything you guys want us to talk about, you guys can leave it in the comments. You guys can also go to YouTube, and this will be posted if you missed it live on YouTube, CrossFit Chicago Heights. Eric, I will see you later.
All right. See ya.